All right, everyone, let's talk about what's probably the biggest release of the year for developers, .NET 10. We're going to dive right in and see what makes this thing such a game changer.
And when I say it's a big one, I mean it. We're talking thousands, literally thousands of improvements here, touching everything from the core runtime to the tools you use every single day.
You know, the .NET team themselves are saying this is, and I'm quoting here, the most productive, modern, secure, intelligent, and performant release of .NET yet. That's a huge claim, right? So in this explainer, we're going to dig in and see if it lives up to the hype.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, the big picture. Then, we'll hit core power and languages, the whole AI revolution, what's new for web and mobile, smarter developer tools, and wrap up with why you should upgrade today.
All right, first things first, let's get to what is probably the most important detail, especially if you're running apps in production.
Yep, 3 years. .NET 10 is a long-term support release, an LTS release. And why does that matter so much? Well, it means you're getting full support, security patches, all the critical updates, all the way until November 2028. That's the kind of peace of mind you absolutely need for those big, important production apps.
Okay, so we know it's stable, but what about power? Let's pop the hood and look at the foundational improvements that make everything faster and, honestly, just make your life as a developer easier.
Look, performance is always the star of the show, and .NET 10 is, no surprise, the fastest .NET we've ever seen. We're talking some serious under-the-hood magic. The JIT compiler is smarter, there's support for brand new hardware acceleration, and get this, garbage collection pause times are down by up to 20%. That means your apps are just going to feel snappier and use less memory, especially if you're using native AOT.
Okay, this is one of my favorite parts. C# 14 is all about getting rid of the noise. Just look at this before and after for field-backed properties. See all that boilerplate code on the left? Poof, it's gone. That new field keyword is it's beautiful. It makes your code way easier to read and maintain. It's not just about typing less, it's about thinking less about the boring stuff.
And that's not all for the languages. C# 14 also gives us some cool new toys like extension properties and better span conversions. And hey, F# isn't left out. F# 10 gets some really nice refinements to make async code cleaner and gives you better control over warnings. Both languages are really doubling down on making your code more expressive.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI. I mean, you can't have a major release without talking about AI, right? Well, .NET 10 isn't just dipping its toes in the water. It's really positioning itself as a top-tier platform for building smart, intelligent applications.
So the centerpiece of all this is the new Microsoft Agent Framework. Think of it as the brain of your AI operations. It brings together a bunch of powerful tools, like semantic kernel and autogen, to make it way simpler to build AI systems. You can build anything from a single little agent to a whole team of AIs that work together.
And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You could have a writer agent that, drafts some content. Then, once it's done, it automatically hands it off to an editor agent to polish it up. The framework handles all that coordination, making these complex workflows feel almost easy.
Okay, but a brain in a jar isn't very useful, right? The agents need to interact with the real world. How do they do that? That's where this thing called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, comes in. It's like a universal adapter. It's a standard, secure way for your agents to plug into databases, call APIs, and use external tools.
So we've got this super fast core and this incredible new AI framework. So what? How does this actually help you build stuff? Let's see how it all comes together when you're building for web, mobile, and everywhere else.
For web developers, ASP.NET Core is getting some huge upgrades. First up, security. Built-in support for passkeys, which means passwordless login is finally easy. If you're a Blazor fan, you're going to love this. State persistence is now declarative. You just add an attribute. It's that simple. And for everyone using minimal APIs, you now get automatic validation. It's just a whole bunch of quality of life improvements.
Now, for all my .NET MAUI developers out there, you know that annoying block of XML namespace declarations you have to put at the top of every single XAML file? Well, say goodbye to it. MAUI now has global namespaces. You define them once, and that's it. Look at how much cleaner the code on the right is. This is a massive time saver.
And the database side isn't getting left behind, especially with AI. EF Core 10 now has built-in vector search for SQL Server and Azure SQL. Why is that cool? Because it's the key to building smart features like semantic search and RAG applications right from your data layer.
Plus, Cosmos DB is getting a boost with full text and hybrid search.
Okay, a great platform needs great tools. And wow, did the tooling get some serious upgrades in this release. We're talking about making your whole development process smarter.
Visual Studio 2026 it's like something out of sci-fi. AI is just everywhere. Copilot is smarter. You can paste code and it'll actually adapt it to fit the file you're in. There's a Copilot agent for the profiler that'll tell you how to fix performance bottlenecks. And my favorite, an agent for the debugger that can figure out why your unit tests are failing and then suggest a fix. It's wild.
But let's be real for a second. We all have them. Those old projects, the ones that are a bit crusty. So how do you get those applications upgraded to use all this cool new stuff?
Well, they thought of that too. GitHub Copilot is now basically your upgrade buddy. It's been trained to help you migrate to .NET 10. It'll point out API changes, suggest the new way of doing things, and even help you refactor your code. It makes that whole daunting upgrade process feel a lot more manageable.
Okay, so we've seen a ton of cool new features. We've covered the what, so let's end with the why. Why should you drop everything and plan your upgrade to .NET 10 today?
Honestly, the answer is all about planning for the future. Just look at this timeline. See that date, November 2026? That's when both .NET 8 and .NET 9 hit their end of support. That's not that far away. By moving to .NET 10, you jump onto that new LTS track, which keeps you supported all the way to 2028. It's a strategic move.
So, when you put it all together, you've got insane performance, you've got AI built into the very core, you've got frameworks that are easier to use, and tools that practically read your mind. .NET 10 really does feel like it's giving us all the pieces we need to build what's next. So the only question really is, what are you going to build with it?